Hey, this is Dale from Book Brand Business, and in today's training we're going to have a look at how to complete a non-fiction book proposal. And we're going to talk about all of the other things that you need to be thinking about as you complete your proposal. So a book proposal is a little bit like a traditional marketing plan, sort of like a traditional marketing plan. It's a strategic document for the author. Now, most people won't complete a book proposal unless they are looking for an agent or a publisher. But this is something that I highly recommend that you do regardless. And it's something that will really help you to focus your mind and really decide that this is the right book. So when you open up the book proposal document, what I suggest that you do is you take each section and treat it like a mini project. So put some time aside, read through what needs to be completed, and then start to do it. So what we're going to do in this training is I'm going to go through this as a Word document. So I've got the document open and we're going to move through each of the sections, and I'm going to talk about what it is that you need to do to make this your best document ever and really help you to focus your mind and write the right book. So let's start with the suggested layout. Now, the first thing to remember is that this document that I'm using here, this is very much a master document. So it's a document in a particular format, and you would put all of your bits and pieces into it. What you need to think about is when you've started to look for agents and publishers, they will have their own template. You need to download that template and complete it in the way that they ask. So the document that I'm using here, I use this as a master template. I put all of my information into this, and then when I download a document from somewhere else, I just simply copy and paste, transpose the information over. But I always work from a master document. So this is the order in which this document has been put together. So just be mindful that you might have to change the order, you may have to add some other bits and pieces in, or indeed take some stuff out. I have no idea. But the important thing is you create a master document, get real clarity about this book, and then you can use it for however many other book proposals you need to put together. So the first thing that we have is the introduction. So in about 500 words or less, you want to be introducing your book. So what's the title and the subtitle? What category might it sell under? And then thinking about your target audience, what would make them want to read it? You know, why your book? What need does it fulfill? What's the reader going to get as an outcome of reading it? And kind of like, where does this fit in the market? So answer these questions and then come back after a period of reflection and rewrite this as if it were the back blurb of your book. So when you look at any book, whether it's on Amazon or any other platform, or you've got a book and you turn it over, on the book, on the back is what is known as the back blurb. And this is your sales description. So the first thing that I would do is I would go and have a look at the books on my bookshelf, and I would find some books that used a really good template. So I have a particular book that I always suggest to my clients that they use as the template because it uses a great sequence of words that they're mapped out in what I think is a really logical way, and some of the words are incredibly powerful and they make an emotional connection. So I would start off by doing a kind of a mind map, a brainstorm, and then I'd go to my bookshelf, I'd have a look at some other books and see if there was something I could model, and I would keep rewriting this until it really spoke to me And one would hope that it would speak to the heart of whoever would be reading this. You want this first part to really make an impact. Now the summary, that's your executive overview, and I'd suggest that you write that last. And it's like any report that you write, you can't write the summary until you've written everything, because you're now summarizing the detail. So again, you've got this introduction that needs to be, really, really powerful, really sell your book. And then the summary is bringing together everything that you have looked at during the process of putting your book proposal together. Now, the most important thing outside of that is to really think about your ideal reader. Whenever you create any products or services, you're building your business, you're writing books, you need to think about this ideal reader profile. And I would split this into two markets, your primary market, and then have a think about who else might purchase this book. So this is about putting together that ideal reader profile where you've looked at demographics, you looked at behavior, you've looked at all kinds of reasons why this person, because when you write a book, you're writing a book to one person, you're making an emotional connection with one person. So why this person? What kind of questions is your ideal reader asking you? Now you're taking your reader on a journey. So what does that journey consist of? And what outcome does the reader get from reading your book? So I would create a reader archetype, this ideal reader profile, however you decide to put that together. And then I would summarize who that person is. Now you're wanting to decide one person to write to, one person to make an emotional connection, but you really, really do need to think about their behaviors, their motivations, what would inspire them, what is this journey that they're going on, what questions they ask. So again, I would do a bit of a mind map, maybe draw a matchstick person and start to write some of those things out. Now it might be that you're writing your book for a very, very specific target audience. It might be women who are over 55, and then there are certain things about your book that would appeal just to those people for whatever reasons. Now, when your publisher is looking at this, you've got to imagine that through the publisher's eyes, that they can actually get a really clear picture of who that is. But you also want to see this person through the eyes of the ideal reader, because the ideal reader is going to pick your book up. So, how do they recognize themselves? That's the point. So when you've set all this out and you've created this book, you want to be thinking, how does my ideal reader recognize themselves? So again, it's quite a fun exercise pulling all this together. Don't go overboard, keep it, really succinct, so that the publisher goes, yep, I absolutely totally get who this book is for, primary market, and then who else might consider buying the book. We want to know about you. We want your experience, your credentials. We want to know what makes you uniquely qualified to write and promote this book. Do not be sending your publisher or your proposed publisher or agent loads and loads of photographs. What they really want to know is why you. What experience do you have? What qualifications do you have? Is this part of your business already? Is this something new that you're venturing into? How does that make you the right person to write this book? So have a think about that. Again, mind map, brainstorm, scribble in your journal, reflect on it. But absolutely the key points. So if you've been through some kind of experience, some kind of journey, and you're now running a business and you're helping people to do whatever it is that you're helping them to do, you need to say that in here. Now, the next thing that we need to do is we need to think about competitive book titles. Now you need to include between 4 and 8 titles, and what you're doing here is you must prove that there is a market for your book and that there is a need, so that the market is asking for it and that there is a need. So what I tend to do is I tend to write out what I call the long version. So you have the author, the publisher, when it was published, the price, number of pages, the format and the ISBN, a summary of who it's for, what it covers, what it does well, why your book is different. Write all that out and then rewrite it so that you've got this first section here, and then you're doing an analysis of the book. And again, this really does depend on your agent or your publisher in terms of what they want here, which is why I like to write out in longhand, summary of who it's for, what it covers, what it does well, and why my book is different, and then précis it down. The price that you think your book should be pitched at, remembering your publisher will change this. You want to let them know the number of words, 30, 40, 50, 60,000. And this is now a great time to think about how long it's going to actually take you to write and edit your book. So when you get to this book length part, I would actually put together a writing schedule so that when we get to this next bit, when we're looking at availability, when you're going to have your first draft, your second draft, third draft, whatever it is, draft available. And then thinking about the future, what other titles might you have? So remember that when you put a book together, a lot of stuff. Your book will be a subset of that stuff. So you may then have a whole series of books that take the reader on a number of different journeys. Put that information in here. The next thing we want is a list of the intended chapters and what they're about. So this is really your synopsis. So think about that reader journey that we talked about. Where does the journey start? What happens in each of the chapters? What are the key messages of each of the chapters? Now, your business will have a core message, your book has the core message, and every chapter has key messages. It answers certain questions, and that links back to the core message of the book. And you also need to think about any illustrations, any photos, anything that you're referencing, and whether you have permissions. So in this part, you're writing up your synopsis, so a chapter list and a summary. This chapter is about. This is this is quite a large part. It's the marketing and promotion. So you really do need to think about your platform. How many clients you've got, how many people are on your email marketing list, your social media sites. What is your potential reach? If you've got a newspaper column or a column in a magazine, have you got any past book sales, any other kind of publications? We want to know the size of your audience. And obviously we want to look at, have you got a website? Do you blog? We want to be looking at that social media following and how engaged they are. Now, something that I think is interesting is, and I've put this question in, and actually this is really not for the book proposal, but when you're thinking about the launch, have you done any vocal coaching? Have you thought about your personal brand, what you want to be known for, and how you want to be seen? So think about your personal brand so that when the book is launched and published, you can be saying to your publisher and your agent about your brand. It's really about raising awareness. What about speaker networks? Do you belong to any networks? Do you belong to any speaking organizations? Do you have any talks coming up? What about tours? Have you thought about things like that? Are there any talks? What kind of cost is involved? Who's going to arrange them? So what we're doing in this marketing piece is I'm going to suggest that you create a full and comprehensive marketing plan, and then you précis it down for the agent and the publisher, answering the questions of the things that you want to, that they specifically want to have answered. What about PR? Do you do that yourself? Have you got someone that you use, a professional? What's the cost to you? Where is your publicity going to be focused? Particular magazines, TV, radio, what? So again, think about your PR, and then what else? Testimonials, the forward of your book, expert pieces, opinions, blogs. Do you have a YouTube channel? Are you putting stuff out on there? What parts of your books can be used for ongoing promotion? And even if you are self-publishing and self-promoting, all of this needs to go into your marketing plan. You need to think about your budget. You need to think about when you're going to do various things. This is a very, very strategic part of your book. Now, the other thing that I would think about here is, what is your launch plan? So when you start thinking about creating this book, you actually need a launch plan that's going to take you over the next 6 months. I always write up an action plan. So what is the area? What's the detail? Who's going to do it? When? And then you might also want to add in here, how much it's going to cost. So although a lot of this stuff is not for the publisher or the agent, it's really important that you put it all together. Now, allied with your marketing plan, I would also create a 90-day action plan. So I would look at this. I would break everything down by specific areas. So, perhaps you're doing a blogging tour, perhaps you're doing some PR. I would split everything down by area, put the details in, and then look at it by date, look at it, who's going to do it. So it might be your PR agent, you might have someone who does your Facebook ads or whatever it is. And I would then put that along with the launch plan stuff into your 90-day plan. So you know exactly what you're doing when you're doing it. Then you need to include a couple of chapters. Obviously not the introduction, because what we want to see here is to get a sense of style, voice, expertise, and the structure of the book. And then how will you be contacted?